great friend of this club and a great friend to all beekeepers. So please give him your full attention and welcome Mr. Baxter.
Come in, come in. We're going to talk bees tonight, and first thing, everybody hold up your hive tool. Nope.
Okay.
No beekeepers in here, okay. A real beekeeper always carries your hive tool with you. That's how you know a beekeeper went to church. You hear the hive tool clank when he sits down on the pew. So that's how you know that. And I've been working for Apiary inspection a long time, and I've seen a lot of bees and a lot of people. And I'm working with beekeepers that I worked with their grandfather. So it becomes one great big beekeeping family, and we lose people and we see babies being born, and but the beekeeping family to me is a wonderful family and a wonderful group of people. It is. And it is a great thing to be a beekeeper, but there are responsibilities that go with that. Because when you stand up and say, I'm a beekeeper, you have to realize everything you do as a beekeeper reflects on other beekeepers. So always keep that in mind, that whatever you do reflects on other beekeepers. And it's a great, great joy to be a beekeeper. But the other thing, y'all come in, good evening. The other thing I want to talk about is the number of hives you need and responsibilities about that. Especially in town, do not have a lot and a huge number of bees in an urban beekeeping setting. Come in, come in. Because that matters with your neighbors. And when we talk about being a responsible beekeeper, that boils down to being a good neighbor with your bees. Whether you're out in the middle of the country or if you're in town somewhere, you want to be a good neighbor with your bees. And there's no greater thing. If you have a bad office day, just come home, stick your head in a beehive, and you'll feel better right away. You will, I promise that. And I've been doing bees before varroa mites and before the Africanized honeybee. And I've seen a lot of bees in a lot of different places, in a lot of different situations. I've seen mean bees. I've seen real gentle bees and everything in between. And I've dealt with human deaths that is no fun from bees. Dealt with dog deaths, horse death. So you have to realize and understand the responsibility involved there also. You do. And also, when you're going to start and have bees, first thing is give your bees a source of water. They've got to have water. And you don't want your bees going into your neighbor's dog watering dish and getting their water, because they're going to get trained to that. So furnish your bees water, and also have more than one colony of bees, because you cannot learn anything from one colony of bees. You'll think all bees will do this, and they do not. So get you 3 or 4 colonies, 2 or 3. That way, if you have bees die, you still have some bees. And there's no worse feeling than having one hive of bees and your hive dies and you don't have any bees. So you get you 3, and it's because you're going to have bees die, and don't think it's not going to happen, because it will. And so you get you 3 hives of bees, and you'll have 1 alive. It's kind of like a chainsaw. You got to have 3 to have 1 running. So you get your 3 hives of bees, and you're going to have some bees even if 1 dies, and you still got bees to split and make some bees. And you can learn way more from 2 or 3 than you ever will from 1. You can. And also, especially if you got bees in town, you want to use common sense in dealing with your bees. Keep gentle bees and have them placed in your yard appropriately and not right up against your neighbor's fence. And also use common sense. If your neighbor's having a 3rd grade birthday party and there's 30 kids out there, don't go out there and open your beehive at that moment. That's just being respectful of your neighbors. It is. And we'll talk a little more in a minute about bee removal and responsibility that goes with that. But apiary inspection, we're going to talk about laws. Now, a lot of things on this will not apply to you at all unless you're moving bees in and out of state or selling bees, or doing bee removal. Our agency was established in 1910, and we've been through just very few chief inspectors in that. We had 2 people that were there for about 35 years each, so we haven't had many people and many changes. Started in 1910, I think I started the year after that or something like that. And it was at Texas A&M. Now a lot of people think we should be under Department of Agriculture, but our agency started before the Department of Ag ever existed. So we're older than the Texas Department of Agriculture. And so then, of course, there was no Department of Ag, so Texas A&M was given our agency. And we are actually only 2 apiary inspection groups in the United States that are with the university. Clemson University in South Carolina also has apiary inspection. But most inspection services will be under Department of Agriculture. And of course, we started because of American foulbrood. If you go back and study beekeeping history, in the early 1900s, American foulbrood was terrible, terrible. And they were burning colonies by the hundreds trying to get rid of foulbrood. And if you've ever seen pictures also up in Kansas in hog cholera, when they were trying to get rid of hog cholera, they were digging pits and burning hogs by the hundreds. So it was similar to that on trying to get rid of American foulbrood. And the reason American foulbrood is so bad is the bacteria that forms spores. And any spore-producing bacteria is terribly hard to get rid of. It's kind of like anthrax in South Texas that lays there in the ground and waiting on the right conditions, and it will pop out of the ground and kill cattle occasionally. So American foulbrood, that bacteria and spores, is just sitting there waiting on the right conditions. It's kind of like goat weeds that lay there waiting on you to plow ground that's waited on 40 years for you to plow, and then you'll have goat weed pop up everywhere. So most states did start their inspection services because of American foulbrood, and we are part of a nationwide group of apiary inspectors that share information and research and knowledge. So we can get a picture of something, and if we don't know, we can send it to a lot of other inspectors in a lot of other states and have a lot of different people look at it. And of course, being a state agency, we have to have a mission statement. But one thing I want to point out in that is science-based regulations and open communication. And throughout the Africanized honeybee deal and the varroa mite situation, tracheal mite situation, we have occasionally set and authorized quarantines based on moving bees county to county within Texas. And we have never done anything about rules, laws, or anything without complete communication and working with Texas beekeepers. Even our most recent law changes, we went through a lot of time working with Texas Beekeepers Association officers and directors, and they write the law, we do not. And that's one thing I want people to understand, is the laws are written by Texas Beekeeping Association. In Texas, any law they have different codes. We have a criminal code, civil code, and so beekeeping is going to be under agriculture code. And when we talk about bee laws, we always talk about Chapter 131. So we know when we're talking about Chapter 131, we're talking about the bee laws. And under this, powers and duties of chief apiary inspector, we do have the power to set quarantines and to go in and actually seize bees if need be. And the reason being, anything unknown disease-wise, pest-wise, we know now how trucks and everything move day to day across the country, so something can move at any given moment and show up at any given moment. So anything new, we have to have the power and authority to do something about it. And a bit of the history on that, when the Africanized bee showed up in 1990, it was such a big deal that the chairman of Texas A&M University of the research station got on a plane, flew to South Texas for a town hall meeting that night because it was such a big public impact. And when tracheal mite first showed up in Texas, it was several things that first showed up in Texas were the first found in the United States. The tracheal mite was first found in the United States in Texas. The Africanized honeybee, the first found in the U.S., was in Texas. But you have to understand, realize on any new pest or disease that enters the United States, then that decision making is out of our hands and it goes to APHIS, the Animal and Plant Health Inspection Service under USDA. They will have the authority to say anything about that, and we will not. When the tracheal mite first showed up in Texas in 1983, the USDA ordered destruction of about 2,000 colonies of a commercial beekeeper in South Texas. And within 6 months, the tracheal mite was everywhere anyway, so it did not really matter. But that was not our decision. It was under the federal guidelines and rules. So we talked about Chapter 131, the law. By nature, you have to make your laws broad, and then you make your rules specific, because you cannot address every situation by law. So also, when we talk about rules, we're talking about Chapter 71. So that's the rule-making chapter under our Chapter 131 laws. And under this, we talk about permits and things of that nature under the rules. Because it's easier to change a rule than the law. And our current staff, I mean, there's not a whole lot to us. This is it for the state of Texas. Angela Steinhauer is our chief, myself, Hannah Blackburn's an inspector. She's been there, I think, about 6 years now. And I trained her and talked to her. We spent many a trip together with me telling Hannah about situations and what you're gonna run into and who to be nice to and who not to be nice to. And through the years, and Michelle is our new administrative person, through the years I've seen a lot of bees, been a lot of places. When I was running the Africanized bee traps, I was going from Beaumont to New Mexico every other week. So that's a long drive, and I've seen a lot of Texas. I don't need a map to go anywhere anymore. And I can tell you where to eat and where not to eat. So that's our staff for the state of Texas, and we do a lot of miles and a lot of trips and a lot of places. And our inspections are basically, we're based on commercial beekeepers. That's our #1 responsibility, because we usually have about 200 beekeepers, and this past season we had about 300,000 colonies of bees coming in and out of Texas. And so it's our responsibility to make sure that other states are bringing good, healthy bees in and out of Texas, because it's important that we maintain healthy honeybees. So we have about 300,000 colonies come in and out every year, and they have to get health certificates just like you're moving cows in and out of the state. But we also do requested inspections. If you have one colony, for a $100 fee, we'll come out there and look at your one colony. And we'll go through it, we'll do mite checks, we'll talk about strengths, weaknesses, answer questions. We'll spend time with you. But you have to realize also, when you're making decisions in your beehive, that at a certain point you have to decide something and put the lid on. There's no point standing out there and it get dark and you're still standing there trying to decide what to do. So you have to do something. And commercial people with 20,000 or 10,000 can't stand there and think about it. They got to make a decision and go on. And we got a lot of people that requeen colonies every year. So they're going through 7,000 and putting all brand new queens every year. And I've been with beekeepers that are killing queens, and I'm thinking, well, I wish you'd let me have that one, because she's just a year old and she's still good. But the lesson I want to throw in there is, do not fall in love with your queen. And don't name her, and don't give her a name, and don't talk about how pretty she is. Because if she's no good, she's no good. And if she's not laying, you don't have to count. But if she's not doing 900 eggs a day, you want to be sure she's doing at least 900. And you want her to be gentle. And if you got a mean queen, then requeen. And if she's no good, then rip her head off. And if she's really mean, just throw her down and run the truck over her too. Because there's no fun having mean bees. There's no point in it. I've worked with old men that don't wear a veil and get stung all over the head, and I'm like, what are you trying to prove? It's not going to make you any smarter to get stung every day. It's not. And it's no fun working mean bees. And I've seen some that are pretty incredible. So we do requested inspections also. Like I said, I don't care if you go one colony, you're in El Paso, I'll drive out there and look at it. That's fine. I enjoy working with people and looking at bees and answering questions. And if you do the $100 fee inspection, you get that inspection certificate. And also we're going to talk a little bit about selling bees. That's listed on there. We also do inspections. And one thing I want to point out there, if you have a problem or think you have a problem, we do not charge the fee. That's at our discretion. If you call us and say, really, I think I have a problem, we'll come show up. There is no charge. We'll come look. Now, also, Hannah Blackburn is very good at pictures. You can email us pictures. And a lot of times, Hannah or myself can look at the picture and tell. But on some things like foul brood, I generally will come and look because I don't want to diagnose something like that over a picture. But general conditions, I can usually look at a picture and tell. Now, if you're selling bees, there are two things. It's either or situation. You're supposed to furnish the buyer something. You either give them a copy of a health certificate from us, or you give them a statement of your own saying my bees are healthy as far as I know or to the best of my knowledge. But you are supposed to give the buyer something. And also I want to talk a little bit about if you're selling nukes, sell a quality product and make sure they're bees, honey, nectar, pollen, make sure there's stuff in that box you're selling them. Do not take advantage of people with less knowledge than you have. And I've seen people selling nukes with an old frame with wire hanging off of it that it should have been thrown in the burn box 10 years ago, and they sold it to somebody. And that's wrong. Don't sell people junk. Now, if you're taking bees in and out of the state, which a lot of people do, our migratory beekeepers, generally we have a lot of people in North, South Dakota, Michigan, Minnesota. They bring bees in here in the fall. They go to California for almond pollination. They come back here in March. They do their spring splits, and then May, June, they go back to North Dakota for clover honey. So on those, if you're going in and out of state, it's a $250 interstate permit. It's good through the end of the current fiscal year, which state of Texas is September 1st, August 31st. We also offer a queen certificate for $300 fee. We have about 10 or 12 people from North Dakota, South Dakota that raise queens in Texas and ship queens. And we give them little mini certificates that go with their shipping, where they can ship queens and have the little certificate with the shipment. But that's a different deal. And the other thing I wanted to mention there about raising queens, a lot of people think they get 5 colonies and they want to raise and sell queens. But you've got to have drones to raise queens. And the more diverse and large population of drones you have, the better queens you're going to have. So you've got to have that diversity. So you cannot sit there, it would be the luck of the draw to have 2 colonies and raise queens and get a good queen, because you don't know who or what she's going to mate with, because she needs about 15, 16 good diverse drones of different types and genetics to have good genetics. All right, we're going to talk a little bit about live bee removal. If anybody is doing that, you are required by law to be registered with us. And registration is a $35 fee fiscal year, September 1st, August 31st. But that was done under exemption from structural pest control years ago. And the reason being, when the Africanized bee came in and started, pest control people did not want to do bees because they can make a fortune spraying for termites and they don't get bee stung. So they didn't want to do honeybees. So in order to let beekeepers do that, the Structural Pest Control Commission passed that law saying beekeepers could remove bees if they register with us, and they cannot use chemicals. And that fixes it where beekeepers did not have to go through all the structural pest control licensing at all. But the situation with this, if you register with us, you are listed on our website, because as a public resource, we have a bee removal tab on our website. And somebody from X or Y county can call us and ask about needing bees, got bees in the wall. We say go to our website, find the county you need, and people register with us. Their name and contact number will be listed there. And that costs them $35 a year, a fiscal year, to register with us. And so their name is on that website and on that list. Now, anybody knows for $35 you cannot get that kind of advertising anywhere for a year. The other thing about that is we do not know these people personally. And so we cannot guarantee when somebody calls that this beekeeper listed in this county has any clue about what they're doing or not. And they may not. And I tell people to ask for references, past jobs, talk to people, and check some out. Otherwise, you're talking about you're going to give them a blank check and you don't know what they're going to do. And there again, if you're doing bee removal, do not take advantage of people with less knowledge than you have. Otherwise, you're like after a tornado and a roofer going down the street knocking on doors. And they're knocking on doors and saying, I'm doing bee removal. I'll do it for you today at this price. But the thing we've seen there is if you're doing bee removal, have a complete understanding with that homeowner about you'll do X for Y dollars. I will tear the wall out, I will get the bees, I will not put the wall back. I will tear the wall out, I will get the bees, I will put the wall back. So you have to have a complete understanding with that homeowner. Because we've seen people take advantage of that and they say, I can make money removing bees. And they go out there and get out of the pickup, tear a wall out, and they get stung. They jump in the truck and leave. And the housewife looks out the window and there's bees everywhere. And whoever claimed to be a beekeeper's gone. So somebody has to come clean that mess up. So that gets into that question again. Like I said, your responsibility as a beekeeper. And what you're doing reflects on other beekeepers. So keep that in mind all the time in anything you're doing as a beekeeper. And again, this is not a permit or a license to remove bees. It's just registering with us at all. And I've seen some strange things on bee removals and people taking advantage. I saw a guy at Colleen McGregor area one time giving homeowners a big speech about save the bees, and he was putting them in a cardboard box and driving down the road and dump them in a ditch. So there again, don't take advantage of people. But that was done, and it is a public service because it helps us when somebody calls the office and needs help on bee removal. We can go tell them go to our website, go to bee removal, and find the county you need. And also, one thing I want to mention, if you're doing that, occasionally do a little bit of charity work, because there are people that need help, and elderly people that need help and don't have resources, and you don't want to sit there and say, well, for $500 I'll help you or something. It doesn't hurt anybody doing that to occasionally help somebody. And that is the law, and it states under there about required to be registered with us. And again, that explains that we do maintain that list of beekeepers. And also, I mean, when you register with us, you list the counties that you want to be listed in. So you can be listed in several counties. And what most people do will do their home county and then several counties around there. You know. But you always, if you want to add a county to your list, you can call or email us and say, add X county to my list. And when we first, this has to be manually done by Michelle in the office, so it's just updated once a month. And you may call and register, and it may not show up for a few days. But we have more to do than to put somebody's name in there and do that every day. And we have people that will want to write down all 254 counties, and we'll tell them that's not going to happen. Because we're not going to sit there and ask our office person to sit there and spend all day typing your name in 254 counties, when we know good and well you're not driving to El Paso to do a bee removal. So registration, and I want to cover this a little bit because it used to be free, and we changed it this past September. We did change some laws, and again, we did not change any of this without working with Texas Beekeepers Association. And we talked and worked with their officers and directors. We had tried for several years to get the laws changed. So registration used to be free. It is not now. It costs you $35 a fiscal year. You have to renew each September the 1st. It is not registered. I mean, it's not required except for bee removal or the Master Beekeeper Program. An appraisal district may require it for ag valuation, which when you get into that using bees for an ag exemption, people call us all the time asking questions, but you have to talk to your appraisal district. They are the ones that set the guidelines for that. We do not. Now, I can tell you a couple of things that are under the state law. Under state law, under the honeybee exemption, it's 5 to 20 acres. That is your ag window that has to be used for that. Now, what a lot of people, developers, were running into is they were going out and selling 5 acres, and you take an acre for your homestead, you only have 4 ag acres left, so you don't qualify for any ag exemption under bees. So a lot of people were shocked to realize that and learn that. But you have to talk to your appraisal district to get any answers on that, because we cannot tell you what a county appraisal district will require. So you have to talk to them. And the reason we started doing registration and charging for that is occasionally the state of Texas comes to us and asks us, how many beekeepers do you have in the state of Texas? Well, when it was free, we had people register 9 years ago. They've not had bees for 8 years. Well, those numbers are no good. And you can't make any policy decisions without good numbers. So if everybody that wants to register, and they may be business purposes of your own that you want to register, but we do not require it except for these reasons and purposes it's required. Other than that, you can if you wish. But it does give us good numbers. If everybody has to renew each year, then we have a valid set of data that we can go to the state with. Because the state gives us money to work with, so we're in queue to answer their questions. And that's the other thing, the fees and the money do not go to us, it goes to the state treasury. So we don't get any of it. We're given X dollars to work with every year, and that's it. And this has been a sticky point, and I actually requested Texas beekeepers that we can just throw this out. But the Texas Beekeepers Association wanted to keep that. But if you got bees at your principal residence, you're exempt from any of this. But if you're moving bees around, you are supposed to have identification or a sign in the yard or something. There's a reason for that. If the city of Houston or somewhere calls us and says there are 30 colonies abandoned out here, they're stinging people like everything, who do they belong to? Then it helps if we go there and there's some ID on the box or anything like that so we can know who to call. Now, and I've had a couple of strange cases about that. We had a case years ago in Abilene where a lady woke up in the morning and looks out the window. There's about 300 hives of bees sitting in the pasture right next to her. And she called us, and I happen to know and recognize the little symbol that this guy has on his boxes. So I knew who they belonged to. And I called him, and he was bringing bees back from California and had truck trouble and had to take the truck to a shop in Abilene. Well, he couldn't do it with a load of bees. So during the nighttime, it was dark. He unloaded the bees. And he happened to unload them right by the house. But it helped that I knew the symbol and knew who to call. And he said, I'm at the shop, I'll come back and get them, which I knew he would. But it did help to know who the bees belonged to. And also on this $10 fee for that brand number, that is a unique number that belongs to you forever and ever. It'll be yours 100 years from now. It will. But you do not get to pick the number. We issue the number based on the county and where you're at. Because it's a surprise to some people, but state of Texas record keeping, each county in Texas has a number. So if you go to one of our bee brands, the number one's for Texas, and then the next set of numbers is a county number, and then the next set is a consecutive number sequence within that county. And I know I can run across boxes and numbers that I know the beekeeper's been gone a long time. And that's a little bit of history of inspections and timelines. I can remember when the tracheal mite first showed up, and the strange things, we don't see tracheal mite much anymore. I can remember beekeeping before varroa mites, and it was easy then, but some people think it's easy now. And I want to mention a couple of things also is don't learn your beekeeping off YouTube, because some of those people don't know what they're talking about. But that's not going to stop them from talking about it. So be careful. There are some trusted resources on the internet. If you go to extension.org and look under honeybee health, nearly all of those sources are university and science-based resources. So you can trust that. If you just go to, there are some good things on YouTube, but how do you know? It's hard to know. And there again, that's why it's good to be a part of a local club and be a member and come, because you do learn things and you can share resources. And if somebody needs a frame, a bee box, usually somebody has it to share, and beekeeping families will share and help each other. That's why we're here. And you learn which old men not to listen to and some to listen to. And I can remember in the 90s, the Africanized honeybee was nearly all I was working with at that time. I was going all over West Texas giving programs on Africanized honeybees and working with people on bees. And I've seen some really, really mean bees. And then the small hive beetle came along, and that's another thing to deal with. And then colony collapse disorder. And CCD is real similar to in the 60s, they had something called disappearing disease. That was the same thing as colony collapse, but they did not know what to call it, so they called it disappearing disease, but it was the same thing. So everything goes in cycles, it appears. And if you think beekeeping is easy, it's not. But there again, the other thing I want to mention, I'll talk a little about mite treatments. And that brochure from the Honeybee Health Coalition is very good on varroa mites. They have a real good website with videos on sampling and all. It covers everything you can legally use in there. How to use it, restrictions on using it. They got videos, and they talk about sampling and how to interpret your samples. What you always have to keep in mind on sampling for mites is what point your cap brood is at. Because if you got a solid frame of cap brood and you get 1 or 2 mites, then that's not telling you the whole story, because you can have a lot of mites under the cappings that you're not getting in a sample. And also I know, and I was with someone the other day that had a problem, but they don't want to treat. They want to be all natural, which is fine, but it's a decision and should be a decision based on knowledge and an informed decision and not just dreaming stuff up. But it's the same as I can stand up here and say I'm an organic beekeeper and I don't have any bees because they all died because I didn't do anything about it, but I'm an organic beekeeper. No. It's the same as your dog over there has got fleas all over it. You're going to say I'm an organic dog keeper, let him take care of it. And there is a new demand in beekeeping. I can remember when you couldn't give a hive of bees away. And now you can't go to my church unless you got a hive of bees. And it's hard for me to imagine what bees cost now, because I can tell you when you could buy a queen for $6 and a nuke was about $40, but it's not that anymore. Eggs go up, beehives go up. That's the way it is. But almonds also are one of the big driving forces in migratory and commercial beekeeping. In January to March, 2/3 of all the bees in the United States are in California for almond pollination. And the almond growers are making a fortune, and so they're paying beekeepers to bring bees out there because almonds have to have bees. And it's amazing sometimes because I see bees that come back from California and there's still almond petals, flower petals all in the pallet everywhere, and you open the box and it's just a great smell when they come back from almonds, But a lot of people are living off that almond money, and it's hard to imagine what they're going to do if the almond money dries up or if they change that. And that's the other thing about beekeeping. If you're doing it to make money, you have to make choices about what you're going to try to do. And you can sell bees, or you can sell honey, you can do pollination. I know a beekeeper that runs about 4,000 colonies does not produce any honey. He does strictly pollination. That's what he does. And any time anybody has a question, go ahead and jump and feel. I was going to tell a story also about, and this never bothers me about people taking a nap, because I was given a program in West Texas once. It was the Chevron, a safety program. It's in June, about this time of year. We did it one afternoon. These men had worked half a day in 100 degrees. Everybody ate lunch. We turned off the lights for a slideshow, and everybody went to sleep. I never take it personal about that. I just think they must think they're in church if they're going to sleep. And the beekeeping world has changed, especially with the ag exemption demand for bees. We've got people down in Hayes County, down below Austin, that are making a living off furnishing bees for people for their ag exemption. And they may have like 150 different bee yards. They've got 6 or 7 colonies of bees. Yeah, they do. And so they're spending all day driving around a bunch of little bitty bee yards and working on that. And so we always try to be a bridge between beekeepers and research. And we do meet every year and have a national meeting with apiary inspectors and research groups, and we share knowledge and collaborations and all. And we also participate in the USDA National Survey, where we go do 24 different beekeepers across Texas and sample, and they check for viruses and nosema and a lot of things on that. So we do that to get information from. And again, we try to work with research, so we act as that bridge, because you're out here in the beekeeping world and it's up to us to help present you information. And along the line of that, we've tried for several years, and the legislature finally gave money, and A&M has hired a new statewide extension apiarist. And he's going to be based, he started a couple of weeks ago. He's going to be based in Overton at Texas A&M's Research Center there. But they're going to hire 2 more specialists, and his job is going to be taking over the Master Beekeeper program. And he's also going to be working with beekeepers on practical applied research and bringing current and good information to beekeepers. And we've tried for years, and several years ago, we had the apiarists from Mississippi come to a program, and I told Dr. Lamb, that's the AgriLife Research Director, I told him, surely if Mississippi can have one, we can have one. And we do a lot of things now in urban beekeeping in town. I'm always cautious, and I talk to people about being careful with having bees in town. Have good, gentle bees. Be careful, do not put too many colonies in a backyard and all, because I'll tell you, and I've seen it, you never know what's going to trigger a colony of bees at any given moment. So we do a lot of programs, and we work with homeowners. We answer all kinds of questions. In the last couple of weeks, we've done some ag youth fairs where we talked about 400 fourth graders all day long, and they give you a hot dog. So that's the kind of day you have with fourth graders. But I'm hoping, and I think our new extension program will do a lot of the speaking programs and all. Though I do enjoy it, as I said, through the years you meet a lot of friends and families and beekeeping families, and it just becomes all one big family of friends to you. And education is the thing and difference. I mean, that's why you're here, like I said. You share knowledge, you learn. And in beekeeping, I don't care, I've had bees a lot of years, you're always learning something. And I don't care, you'll still see bees do something you've never seen them do before. You can read literature and what a lot of books say, and a lot of times the book will tell you something, then you'll see something totally different. And I've seen a lot of, you can sit there and read, well, there's only one queen in there. Well, that's not so. I've seen a lot of colonies, there's 2 queens in there. I've seen 2 queens on the same frame before. One of the most bizarre things you can ever see, if you ever see it, is to see a queen bee faint. And it's pretty amazing to watch. If she gets so stressed, she'll just pass out like everything. No, it's pretty weird. I've opened the lid and have a colony of bees that's like, we were waiting on that, and just swarm and go like that, right as you open the lid. They didn't even want to use the front door. They were just waiting on you to take the lid off. And our website is txbinspection.tamu.edu. There are different things on that for beekeepers, for general public. There's disease information on there. There's an email button on there. You can email us at any time and ask questions. You can send pictures. Michelle will probably answer the phone, and she's very good. But I've told her also, and I've been yelled at through the years, which is fine. I don't mind that. I always tell people, hey, we're just talking. If you want to yell, that's fine too. It is. But I have told Michelle, our office person, you do not have to get yelled at. Just hand the phone to somebody else. And we do have online resources on American foul brood, different diseases, different things. And we also run the Master Beekeeper program. It was copied after the University of Florida program because they had a real good program and there was no need us starting from scratch. But the extension, our new extension person will be taking over that program sometime next year probably. But we will be doing a testing in November at the state convention, which will be in the Austin area sometime. But we will do testing to start the program. It's a long-term program, and you have to have bees for a year before you can start the program and all. And the Master Beekeeper has their own website. You can get listed on that, and Hannah runs that. I don't keep up with it a whole lot, but you have to do public service credits, and sometimes we do post notices where a school or someone is requesting a speaker, and we'll post it on the Master Beekeeper listserv for somebody to do for public service credit. And which I don't like to share some things, but we got a crazy email recently from the registration where a lady said she thought that registration, that $35 was insurance, and if she had a colony die, we'd replace the colony. And I said, sorry, that $35 didn't do that. But anyway, that's the one thing I do believe in, and when we started this website with email, the one thing I do believe in as a state agency is answering questions. So I don't care if you think it's questions silly, no good, nothing. I believe in answering questions, and I'll answer the question, and I'll talk to you about it.
So Bill, when you go visit with the chief appraisers in multiple counties, which I have
Oh, you got different
multiple
properties.
counties throughout. One of the things the chief appraisers refer to is an apiary definition. And they set number of colonies per the acreage per the apiary definition.
Okay.
But if you go to 131.001, the definition of apiary, it's not clear cut.
Well, that changed this past, the questions, the definition of an apiary and the number, that changed this past September the 1st. It used to be 6. And that is what a lot of appraisal districts are going by and requiring, is a minimum of 6 colonies. The definition of an apiary used to be, under the law, 6 colonies. But that changed this past September the 1st, and we took the 6 out. But a lot of appraisal districts are still holding on to that 6 colonies and requiring that. And then stair-stepping the numbers based on the acreage, stair-stepping up.
And it used to be a set number of colonies for a set number of acres, and I'm not finding that in any tax code now anyway.
In what?
In a tax.
Well, it's not gonna be in the law at all.
No, even in the regulation.
Well, an appraisal district can set that anywhere they wanna set it. That goes under what they use, an appraisal district says degree of intensity, whether it's cattle, bees, goats. They can set what they call the degree of intensity for anything under there.
Correct.
So they will set it at whatever number they want based on the acre. And what a lot of appraisal districts, they'll go 6 colonies for 5 acres, and then they'll go up to say 10 acres, 12 colonies, or stair step every 2 or 3 acres, 2 or 3 more colonies.
Correct.
Up to like 12 colonies for 20 acres or something. But the appraisal district can set that degree anywhere they want to set it. We do not have anything to do with that. The appraisal district can set that required intensity.
Yeah, I know each county, they refer to the 131, Texas Code, section 131. And then they also refer to chapter 23, which is under the appraisal tax code.
Oh, okay, yeah,
Right.
well, we don't.
But you're not involved with that.
No, we're not on that, but, the only thing under that, under the state law is the 5 to 20 acres.
But then the appraisers are now wanting each yard registered with the Texas Apiary Inspection Service. Now, me as a beekeeper, I may have.
You mean
Each yard.
oh, okay, so you got 5 or 6 yards in one county,
Yeah.
and they're wanting you to register each one?
Each individual yard. So if I have to register with Texas
Well-
Apiary Inspection Service,
Except for the fact that if you give us $35, you're registered with us, period. That's registering you as the beekeeper. It's
Right.
not registering any apiary, this or this. Now, we've got some people down in Austin that are doing that are actually, because they're in the business, so they're furnishing bees for 20 different property owners. So they're paying for the registration for every one of those, you know. And it's all in one county, but they're trying to get the exemption for each of these property owners, so they're paying 20 different registrations in the same county. But they're getting paid hundreds of dollars for furnishing bees. But I understand what you're saying, but an appraisal district has a lot of freedom and leeway on what they require.
oh yeah.
And I have talked with a lot of appraisal districts, and some do not understand what we're requiring. And some appraisal districts don't have a clue about anything. And I've seen that, in fact. But most are using the 6 colonies as their starting.
Yes, base, yes, I agree.
Yeah, but the question of making you register each apiary, that's up to them. We don't require.
So I have a question about registration. So the $35 registration fee is registering me as a beekeeper.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how many colonies.
Doesn't matter how many colonies, how many yards.
So if you have one, you should register. That's the responsible thing to do so that y'all know how many people we
It
have.
is not required by us.
It's just,
Some people want it for business purposes or tax purposes or just because to say I'm registered.
And that's an annual registration.
It's an annual registration. As of August 31st, if you're registered now, it's gone. It has to be.
So our previous registration, they went out the window.
Yes. When we changed this past September the 1st, and I spoke at our state convention, and we had it on our website, you're currently registered, you're no longer registered.
So we're not, yeah, we weren't grandfathered in.
No, and I talked with Texas beekeepers about that, and it was just the easiest way to do it, is just start over. Because as I said, we had people registered 10 years ago, hadn't had bees in 9 years, so there's no point keeping their registration in the database. But what we're gonna run into is people, and our chief inspector and I talked about this, is you're gonna run into people wanting to register in August and having our computer system recognize and make that change at that given moment, and which they don't pay me to do that. Anyway.
I just have a quick
Yeah.
question. And you may not know the answer to this. Let's say you
If I
have,
don't know the answer, I'll say I don't know the answer.
but like say you have 60 acres and you wanna put bees on, can you put 12 on 20 acres and 12 on another, and then 12 on another, or is it just the 20
They're
acres?
not. Again, I cannot speak for the appraisal district, but they're not gonna let you do
They're not, okay.
In
I was just curious.
in most cases, they cannot be adjoining acres, they can't have a common boundary.
that. Yeah.
Once you hit 20, say you had 22, they'll only give it to you for 20, those other 2, they won't give it to you because
Yeah.
they're adjoining. Now, if you had 20 here and then you were 2 sections down and had another 20, you could get it for that other 20
Yeah,
over there.
because it's separate properties,
separate.
not adjoining. But if it's 60 acres in one piece, they're not gonna separate it and give you this.
You would have to divide it, get it reappraised.
Yeah.
So I mean, like if you were a huge beekeeping operation, and you wanted them all right there, that'd be more than 20 acres. I mean, I don't know,
Well,
I was just wondering how you could.
well, the state law says 5 to 20 acres. That's the
That's it.
window for beekeeping as an ag exemption.
Okay.
So every appraisal district has to follow that. Other than that, each district can set their own degree of intensity in what they require. Some of districts are requiring production records on, you have to diagram all your honey producing plants and everything on a diagram. It just depends on your appraisal district. I can stand up here all day and talk, but your appraisal district can tell you, and they have the say-so. And I've got an ag exemption, and some districts are not easy to talk to.
Question.
Yes,
So the Texas Master Beekeeper Program started 9 years ago, 2015.
yes.
Do you have any idea how many people have graduated from it?
The question, we started the Master Beekeeper Program in 2015, how many people have graduated? The long-term through the whole program, which is a long-term program, we've had one person,
Oh, goodness.
yes, that's gone all the way through. Now, what a lot of people are doing is they'll go to the first session, and then you go to their Facebook and they'll say, I'm a master beekeeper.
Now, wait a minute, you're talking about master craftsman?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, cause I'm a master.
No, I'm talking
I was
about.
supposed to say, Donnie, are you that one person?
We gotta clear this up now.
The master craftsman, I'm talking about the end of the program. It's a long-term program.
Grand Poobah, that's one.
One,
Grand
yeah.
Poobah.
Yeah, if you get after it, we can have two.
I'm not a master
I
craftsman.
tell everybody, I'm just an apprentice, man.
Okay.
I'm just an apprentice. I got a lot to learn.
But if you will look at people's Facebooks, they will make some claims about what they've done. But that's on beekeeping and everything else.
For the master level, master beekeepers, it's less than 100. I was kinda counting them up. They don't have like a number on the website, but they have them listed.
Yeah.
I think I quit counting at like 78, but I was close to the end, so it's less than 100 of them.
Okay, so there's a guy in Gainesville who said he went through the program. He said there's about 35 of them.
There's more than that. It's on the website if you wanna verify who
Just
this
curious.
who is.
Yeah, Hannah Blackburn usually does that, and I'm not that involved with that program.
So
Might have
Donnie,
been
you're a
35.
master, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and I'm an advanced and you're
Apprentice.
apprentice.
Well, but see, Michelle Burst is the only one that's made it all the way through the program. Because, you know, when you get on up, you got a research project towards the end.
It's intense, it's hard. It's a
And
lot.
yes, sir.
How long's the program?
As long as he wanted to
Pretty
do it.
much 5 years is what, I mean, that's if you're pushing.
Right, yeah, at least 5
It's
Yeah.
five years
You can't
to
do
make
it
a
faster than
master,
5 years.
and then
Yeah.
you're gonna have to be 6 years,
You don't have a job.
7 years, I think.
No, even then, they're
Master
required to
craftsman.
have so many
If
years
you
of
got a
experience
job
at
at
each
20.
level. They won't let you go from apprentice to master.
Yeah, you can't jump test to test immediately. You know. And, I mean, part of that, you can be a great beekeeper and never participate in that program. I mean, it's a personal pride thing in what you do. On bee removal, we have a group of professional bee removal people that have a association. And I've told them, you know, someone can be a great bee removal person and never have any interest in being a part of your group. And that doesn't make them less qualified to do what they're doing at all. But if you really want numbers, if you give me an email, Hannah Blackburn can give you all the numbers you want. She's got all the numbers on the total number of people that have gone through the whole program, and there's a lot that do the first level, and then that's it. Because it gets harder.
Well, and then one of the things I've always said whenever I'm talking to the group is, if you wanna just learn more about being a beekeeper, that is a great program. You don't have to do the whole thing, but that
No.
first one gives you such knowledge that gives you more confidence to be a better beekeeper. So you don't have to do the whole thing, but just, learning is there.
Yes, and back to the requested inspections, I mean, we've got a lady at Fredericksburg that will pay us 2 or 3 times a year to come out and look at her bees. And I've talked to her about confidence and having confidence, and the thing there is, you're gonna have bees die, and you learn what you can learn and get some more bees, you don't give up. And the great things, the bees will correct most of your mistakes themselves, so. I mean, you can turn them over and dump them upside down, they're just gonna go right back to work and where they're at and work, that's what they do. But don't ask them to do more than they can do.
So on branding and identification of hives, right? As a sideline, do my boxes have to be branded or just the yards?
Just a sign in the yard.
Just a
And
sign in yard,
that-
in each individual yard?
That is what's written. Now, I can tell you, it's not anything we're going to enforce. There's 3 of us for the state of Texas. And we're not actually worried about whether you have a sign in your bee. And I did talk again with Texas beekeepers, and I was happy to throw all that out, but Texas beekeepers wanted that still in there. And it does come in handy, like I said, sometimes to know who bees belong to. But when you get into the branding and the numbers, I mean, beekeepers sell stuff all the time. So you can go in the yard and there'll be 10 different brand numbers.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, so, but that's, again, it's.
I might have 100 hives in this yard and 30 hives over here, and maybe 1 box out of all those hives may have my brand number on it.
Yeah, well, that's good enough.
That's good, okay.
I mean, like I said, that's nothing I'm ever gonna jump out of the truck and yell at you. I got more to do than that.
So intrastate permits, they went away totally, right?
Intrastate we threw out. And I didn't cover that much, but the reason, years ago, that was county to county, it was intrastate, which used to be required. No longer exists. You can move bees county to county anywhere in Texas, no permit needed. The reason being, years ago, when American foulbrood was so bad, it was critical to know where bees were. And it should have been thrown out several years ago, but it's hard to get laws changed.
Mhm.
We tried for several sessions to get this done, but Dodie Stillman, TBA president, and I spent hours and hours going over this and talking about how to do stuff and all. But the interstate was no longer needed, it's not necessary.
But the interstate is still required.
If you're moving these in and out of the state, yes, it's an interstate program.
Just even across the Red River.
Technically, you should have, no, I will jump out of the truck and say something about that. Just not the signage, but if you're going in and out of the state, that is a requirement. But it covers any number of moves through the fiscal year. It used to be when we had import-export, every move in and out was a separate permit. But this way, you do your interstate, and it covers through August 31st, any number of moves in and out of the state. Because to California for almonds, a lot of times people don't even know they're going until 2 days and a broker calls and says, I need your bees. And so this way, if they do the interstate, it's done. And they can take bees, bring them back, and it's covered through August 31st.
Do you need your brand to sell honey and stuff?
No, the Department of Health regulates honey, we do not. And they do have, they got passed several years ago under those cottage laws, an exemption on that. Because usually you had to have that, kitchen manufacturing license, but you do not anymore. But thankfully, we don't have to regulate that, the Department of Health does. And that's our website, that's our new phone number, I got it changed, that's our email, feel free to call, email, anytime. Like I said, I do believe in answering questions, and when we started this website and email, that's one of the things I talked to the office about, is I want people answered and I want emails answered.
What is the biggest thing that you're seeing causing colony collapse disorder right now?
What we've seen a lot of. Oh, that's not, they weren't laughing at the question.
I'm not laughing at that. We just read it. Sorry, go
So
ahead.
what we've been seeing a lot of is European foulbrood. In the last 2 years, it's really increased, it has. We've seen a lot of it. Well, it's been wetter in wet spring, and also I've seen a lot of chalk brood come back recently. In the 70s and 80s, chalk brood was terrible, but then it seemed to go away, but I've been seeing some chalk brood. But the tricky part now on especially parasitic mite syndrome, and when larvae dying from mite viruses and things, it can look real similar to European foulbrood, and the symptoms can look nearly identical. And so it's kind of tricky on that. But
I was seeing a sackbrood this spring, which
I've seen I've never seen sackbrood much, but I've seen it a few times, and it will show up a little bit. But it's never been a real issue that I've ever seen. You know. But we've been seeing a lot of European foulbrood the last 2 or 3 years. You know. And it's, if you think beekeeping is easy, I've worked with some people, North, South Dakota, Nebraska beekeepers, that this past year they had about 5,000 and had about 4,000 die. So they're down to 1,000, and they're going to Florida and buying bees to try, because if you're in the bee business, you gotta have bees. So if you don't have any, you have to go get some. And I'm talking about people that have been doing it for 30, 40 years. And that's hard to know about that, but anybody in here old enough to remember, there used to be vetch and clover everywhere, and there's none anymore. They plowed it up and used to do winter peas and things like that. And now it's just corn everywhere, and bees are like little kids. They gotta have different colored pollen, just like different colored vegetables. And bees can't live off of one type, one color of pollen all the time. They gotta have something different. And their immune system is what's critical to bees. So the stronger you keep their immune system, the better they can withstand viruses and everything. You know. But as I said, beekeeping's a great joy, but it's a responsibility. And if you're gonna have bees, take care of your bees, you know. But feel free, I'm here for questions. Call us, email us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bill.
And I will have that pinata.
All right.
So Bill brought some handouts, if some of you came in the back, there's some handouts on the table, you can help yourself.
You
with
gonna
any of
put the
those
bees in?
resources, so free.
So, I can't think of anybody better to answer questions from all of y'all about your hives and stuff, so we're gonna take advantage of Bill while he's here and just ask your questions, whatever you have. I can't think of anybody who'd be more expert, so please go ahead. Yes, sir.
Can we go around the room and just let everybody say their name?
Sure, my name's Donovan.
Okay. Chris Buckley?
Millie Buckler.
Fanny, Rainey.
Amy Johnson, no, sorry.
Jody?
Jody Baxter,
James Nielsen.
Amy Johnson,
Todd Johnson.
It's okay, go ahead behind, he's maybe America's most wanted, so.
Russ, we need conduit.
No, we can see a lot of European.
Yeah, I know you were down there trying to Been to McDonald's,
You
didn't
can
you?
go around yet?
Oh, yeah, I didn't see them.
I just, oh, okay. Like he's gonna beat you down there with us.
We good?
We're good.
Okay.
Where I live, there.
Okay, I wasn't home.
This
I don't
was,
do that.
well, this was what 18 miles west of Valley.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I looked at it.
Yeah, my-
Bill, Tammy's got a question.
Oh, sorry.
I just wanted to know, what's your opinion of like, mite resistant bees? Are they a unicorn?
Personally, I find that a little tricky. Because I know the questions about mite resistant queen's bees, I do know some people making that claim, but they're also buying bees from other people and buying bulk bees. And when you're changing genetics as often as you do with bees, it's a little tricky to keep a true genetic line that's a genetic trait to claim you're doing this.
Cause I know she
Because-
had it in here.
Well,
There's
the thing, if you're not gonna chemically treat, then the hygienic bees and the mite-resistant bees is one of the things that you have to use. Because it's a tool you're gonna use. But when you talk about mite-resistant bees, if you're gonna use that for your stamp